When it comes to sim racing tubular frames, I've tested quite a few over the years. Most of them were good, but very few were actually exceptional. Some were sturdy but looked like they should come with a free pair of cargo shorts and a hedge trimmer. Others looked fantastic but completely fell apart when it came to comfort or adjustability. And some were simply priced out of this world. There are only a handful of tubular sim rigs that I can genuinely recommend. So the big question is, does the TR5 belong in that group? Looking at the specs and especially the amount of pre-orders, you'd think the answer should be yes. But as we all know in sim racing, what looks good on paper doesn't always survive contact with reality. With a price of €549, the TR5 comes in the neighborhood of the Playseat Trophy, Playseat Formula Instinct and the Oplite GTR S8. It is a bit the mid-segment of tubular frames. For this price you get the seat, of course, itself, you have the shifter holder which come with it, there are the cable binders that come with it and some attachment material also, and of course something which I can't forget, a very nice manual. The TR5 arrives in a single cardboard box and overall everything is very well protected. My outer box had clearly seen some rough handling during transport, but despite that every part came out without scratches or damage. Something I also really appreciate is that Trak Racer opted almost entirely for cardboard protection instead of excessive plastic packaging. Environmentally speaking, that's absolutely the right direction for hardware like this. It took me roughly 3 hours to build this kit and then another hour to configure it. Putting it together was really a breeze, and I think that is because of these three things. The first thing would be that all the bolts that you need to use are put separately into different segments of a bag. The second thing would be that the manual that is included is a very clear one. And the third thing would be everything just fitted well together. This is something that I had some issues with in previous kits that I reviewed, that I needed to struggle, that the holes didn't match up with the bolts, but this is not the case for the TR5. It measures around 140 cm in length in its GT position, although that can increase slightly depending on your seating position and leg extension. Including the shifter mount, the rig comes in at roughly 78 cm wide, so this is definitely not the narrowest tubular cockpit on the market. Height-wise, it stands at around 108 cm. At approximately 35 kg, the TR5 is also far from lightweight. Once assembled, this feels like a serious and substantial piece of hardware. The pedal base holder is made out of two different plates that can slide independently on two brackets. You have a travel of 10 cm on these forwards or back. The brackets themselves can also move another 20 cm, making the configuration for leg length very generous. The inclination and height of the pedal base can be changed too. The TR5 has 7 different positions on the front of the pedal base and 6 positions at the back. This allows you to have both front and back as low as 10 cm and as high as 21 cm. They also can be set individually different to get both front and back inclination of the pedals for optimal pedal position. Because of the choice for 2 separate plates, the pedal base holder can hold any pedal base plate with a maximum width of a whopping 48 cm or any separate pedal set. When it comes to configuration of the pedals, the TR5 will certainly not let you down. A last thing I want to mention for the pedal base holder are the measuring markers on the brackets. It really helps a lot with the configuration. If you still need additional legroom, the TR5 also allows you to extend the center tubes by another 15 cm. Combined with the already generous pedal adjustment range, taller drivers should have absolutely no issue finding a comfortable seating position. The wheelbase holder itself sits at a fixed height of 62 cm. You can tilt it backwards by 14 degrees and forwards by 7 degrees, allowing for some fine adjustment in wheel height and angle. The tray can also slide roughly 10 cm towards or away from the driver. For a traditional GT driving position, I had no issues finding a comfortable setup. However, if you prefer a much more reclined seating position, the limited range of adjustment may become a bit more restrictive. That said, this is a compromise many tubular cockpits struggle with. Usually, the moment you introduce too many adjustment points, rigidity starts to suffer. With the TR5, Trak Racer clearly prioritized stiffness and stability over infinite adjustability. Build quality and finishing on the TR5 are genuinely exceptional for this price category. Starting with the frame itself, the tubes measure 4 cm in diameter and every connection feels solid and precisely aligned. The entire cockpit is finished in a matte white coating that not only looks clean but also feels surprisingly resistant to scratches and wear. Even the smaller details received attention. The stickers are pre-installed vinyl decals, the frame rests on sturdy rubber feet that won't scratch your floor, and even those feet carry branded detailing. The screw heads are hidden behind plastic caps, while the spacers used around the tubular frame are also custom branded. And honestly, that's what stands out most about the TR5, attention to detail. This doesn't feel like a rushed tubular cockpit, it feels like a premium product that was actually designed with care. The seat of the TR5 feels very wide, so it is 52 centimeters of seating area that you have in the width. You have 42 centimeters which supports your leg and bottom, and then you have 86 centimeters from the base here towards the tip of the headrest. The materials that they used for this seat are fake leather, blended in with some mesh, some alcantara, and then some gauze material for your back and your bottom to dissipate the warmth a bit when you are driving. It is really hot outside at this moment, and my back, while it's not dry, but it is just a bit moist, so it really helps also with the dissipation of the warmth. You can change the angle of your seating from almost 90 degrees to completely flat, so you have a very wide variety of inclination for this seat. What really stands out on this seat, and this is something that I have never seen before, is the headrest that you have here. So you can take it off like this, and you have one side which is the fake leather, and the other side which is a very soft suede, very soft alcantara like fabric. But it's not all. If you look inside the headrest, you can see that it is made out of some special foam, and that makes it really soft to put your head against also. So I think it is really nice that they added such a feature to this sim rig. It just adds to the value of the whole package. The upholstery of the TR5 also feels remarkably robust. The materials are thick, the stitching appears well executed, and the attachment method of the seating surface inspires confidence. Based on the construction, I don't expect it to suffer from the tearing or stretching that can sometimes occur on similar suspended seat designs after prolonged use. One final point, because many viewers always ask about it, getting in and out of the cockpit is surprisingly easy. Although the seating position is relatively low, the generous knee clearance, wide seating area, and well-positioned support points make entering and exiting the rig far less awkward than you might expect. While the pedal plates themselves feel thick and sturdy, there is still some visible flex under heavy braking pressure. Something I've experienced on nearly every dual-plate pedal design so far. You can mainly see the movement in the center section of the plates during hard braking. Personally, I didn't really notice it while driving, but the camera footage clearly shows it's there. For most users, I honestly don't think this will be an issue, but if you're running extremely stiff, short travel pedals and you're very sensitive to movement in the rig, it's something worth mentioning. The effect is slightly more noticeable with independently mounted pedal sets compared to a full pedal plate. The wheelbase holder, on the other hand, is an absolute champ. Even under the 8 Nm of the Logitech RS50, movement was minimal and completely unnoticeable while driving. Tubular cockpits often struggle with wheel deck flex due to their design, but the TR5 remained remarkably stable. And not just at 8 Nm, I also tested it with the 18 Nm of the Fanatec DD Plus, and it handled that beautifully as well. Trak Racer rates the wheelbase mount for wheelbases up to 25 Nm. Unfortunately, I can't verify that claim as 18 Nm is currently the strongest wheelbase I have access to. Then again, after a few laps at full DD Plus strength, my arms were already filing formal complaints. The important takeaway is that the wheelbase holder never became the limiting factor. Its rigidity is genuinely one of the strongest selling points of the TR5. Another thing I noticed during testing is how surprisingly quiet it remains under load. I experienced no creaking, rattling or metallic resonance while driving. That's likely thanks to both the well-fitted construction and the rigid rubber feet isolating the frame from the floor. Future-proofing is always a bit of a difficult point for tubular frames. If I look at the Trophy, for example, well, there are not that many means to attach extra add-ons. This is completely different with the TR5. If you look at the frame, there are plenty of extrusions that are left here, for example, here on top, there. Plenty of extrusion that you can use to add some extra items. I'm thinking about the display holder that you can put on. I'm thinking about hotas that you can put, some wheels that you can put on it. So there is plenty of things that you can attach to this frame, which makes it really future-proof. I will make a separate video of the add-ons that are available for the TR5, but be certain to watch out for this little box, this little mystery box. It holds 3 extensions that you can add to your sim rig, and I will reveal them in that video. When it comes to styling, this will always be subjective. Personally, I think the white finish with the black decals looks fantastic. It keeps the cockpit relatively neutral while still standing out from the sea of mostly black tubular rigs currently on the market. White is admittedly a risky choice because scratches or washer marks will naturally show more easily. But honestly, it never became distracting during my time with the rig. And if you really want to push the styling even further, there's also the Hot Wheels edition of the TR5, which admittedly looks absolutely brilliant. So, does the TR5 deserve a place among the very best tubular sim racing cockpits? Without hesitation, yes. Because what impressed me most about the TR5 is not just that it's good for a tubular frame, it's that throughout this entire review I repeatedly caught myself comparing it to an aluminium profile rig instead. And honestly, that says everything. For years, tubular cockpits have often been seen as the compromise option. You bet them for the looks, the easier assembly or the smaller footprint. But if you wanted ultimate rigidity and future-proofing, the conversation usually ended with aluminium profile. The TR5 changes that conversation. The wheelbase holder is exceptionally rigid, the seat is genuinely comfortable, the finishing quality is among the best I've seen in this category, and thanks to the integrated extrusions and accessory support, this is also one of the first tubular cockpits that truly feels expandable long term. Is it perfect? No. The pedal deck still shows some flex under heavy braking, and wheelbase adjustments should be more flexible for extreme seating positions. But those criticisms never overshadowed the experience for me. Because at €549, the TR5 doesn't merely compete with other tubular rigs, it competes with entry-level aluminium profile cockpits. And surprisingly enough, it belongs in that fight. Thank you all for watching. If you buy some new hardware of Trak Racer, don't forget to buy via an affiliate link. I also will be doing a versus video of the TR5 versus the Playseat Trophy, which is its main competition in this tubular segment. So subscribe if you want to see that one, and I will see you all next video. Bye bye.